man, who is that handsome devil with the receding hairline? Oh, that's you. Hey guys, so it's been a while since I've done one of these. Ooh, that's not looking good. Um, yeah, no, very long time. Why? Um, Honestly, I just didn't really feel like it. However, brand new movie, brand new day. I didn't even mean to do that. It's clever though, I think. New Spider-Man movie. Um, Going into this, I was very honest with myself and the people around me. I loved the MCU. I saw the Avengers, the first one, as well as Infinity War, like six or seven, six, seven times with my dad in theaters, in various different theaters, especially with Infinity War. Um, I think it was like the fourth or fifth time. Um, we went to one of those AMC's with like the comfy recliners, and you order food and they bring it to you, real fancy stuff. And I remember, it was still early enough in the run where it was a lot of people's first time watching it. um and so people, spoilers I guess for Infinity War, people were like, oh my God, Thanos just killed Loki, and we're like 2 minutes into the movie. And I'd seen it a couple of times before by this point. And so I just like was biting into my juicy cheeseburger and I was going, oh God, that's so good. And people were like, oh my God, Loki's dead. Oh my God. Oh. Um, so that's, my history sort of generally with the MCU. The Winter Soldier, if you look on my letterbox, is still one of, if not my favorite, like superhero movie of all time. Traditional superhero movie, I should say. I don't really count 2022's The Batman, or is it 2023? 2022, 2023's The Batman, in that sort of category. Obviously it's based on a superhero, but I don't really call that one in particular a superhero movie, for various different reasons that I won't necessarily get into right here. Needless to say, I love Marvel movies. However, they haven't been very good lately, and that's kind of concerning. Especially with DC trying to butt themselves in a little bit as well, and then immediately flopping. With Supergirl, which I still haven't seen. I'm pretty sure it's on streaming on like HBO Max now, but um, I still haven't seen it. The only thing from the new DC universe that I've seen is the Superman movie, which I liked. I thought it was okay. And the last thing I saw from the old DCEU was the Joss Whedon Justice League. I think I saw a little bit of Aquaman at the gym. Um, but yeah, no, I've just been totally tuned out of superhero movies lately. Love Thunderbolts. Like I said before, I like Superman, but especially with something like the Doomsday trailer, seeing that bag, it just does not look good. And it really is a shame. Like I said, because I have so much love for this genre, this whole medium, as it were. And I went when this movie first got announced, there was still a lot of hope in my naive little heart. I said, "Oh my God, it's Spider-Man! I love Spider-Man! I own all the Spider-Man 67 DVDs, and oh boy, and I had a Spider-Man math book when I was a little kid." But as time went on, it really diminished more and more and more, to the point where I was more dreading this movie than I was excited for it. I'd heard the rumors that Sadie Sink was going to play Jean Grey. So like, X-Men rep, which I just didn't really think fit into this movie. Um, and unfortunately, as everyone could guess, that did turn out to be true. But I did think it was a bit better executed than potentially could have been otherwise. Um, Another thing that I want to point out that I just think is hilarious before I forget is, and I've been getting so many ads on my Instagram recently for that Biro, that Tom Holland non-alcoholic beverage thing. Um, there was like in the first 5 minutes just a huge ad placement for it. Like Tom Holland's Peter Parker is just poking around on some of the shelves in like a convenience store, and the bureau's like right there in front of the camera. And I'm like, okay, we get it, bro. I have kind of been tempted to try it though, but that's besides the point. Um, Overall, I thought that the movie was pretty good. I There was a lot more than I liked than I didn't like. Um, Obviously John Bernthal as Punisher is always a delight. Bruce Banner as the Hulk isn't in it nearly as much as potentially would be advertised. I thought that the role that he played in it was good, though. I thought that he did a good job with the material that he had. Um, Tom Holland is obviously amazing, and I feel like he's only getting better with the more Spider-Man movies that he's doing. Um, I think it was just overall a very fun time. The choreography was absolutely insane. It was done by the same guy whose name I forget off the top of my head, but he did the choreography for Shang-Chi. And really that was the only memorable thing about Shang-Chi, unfortunately. Um, and so with something like that, you know that the effects would have just been amazing, and they 100% were. There's so many like tricks of the camera and wavy different movements that they did, and it was just really a lot of fun to witness, a lot of fun to behold. I think that now Marvel Studios is they're finally comfortable doing a traditional Spider-Man story. The home trilogy, as much as I like it, as much as I love Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio, I feel like, and this is a common criticism, I feel like it was really held back by, the constraints of, Peter Parker is Iron Man Jr. and he has to earn the mantle of Spider-Man. No, you just really see him be Spider-Man from start to finish throughout this whole thing. And you really kind of get down into the dirt with them as well, which I thought was done really well. It was fun to see Peter in his element where before he was telling every Tom, Dick, and Harry, oh, my name is Peter Parker, I'm Spider-Man. And now that whole thing is like a really close guarded secret with him. And I thought that that was done brilliantly, and as well as the tension with MJ and Ned that brings was sort of the question of whether or not they remember him. How far does he want to step out of his comfort zone? I think that my oil is expired. Whatever. And just how much of himself he wants to give them, how present he wants to be in their lives, especially after what happened with No Way Home. I'm glad that there wasn't really as much of a connection as, again, the trailers made it seem, with Peter being like, oh, I got organic webs. I'm just like Peter 2 now, and Peter 2's cool. And, he is. Everyone knows that. But I think that it was really good that they just kind of let Tom Holland's Peter just be his own guy. There aren't really comparisons. There's no comparisons to Iron Man here. There's no comparisons to the other Spider-Men. It's just a lot of fun. Sadie Sink was amazing as Jean Grey, as skeptical as I still am about her character being included here, especially with my questions going into Avengers Doomsday, with the Renaissance, the sort of fourth time last hurrah for the X-Men universe, the seventh time that they're killing off Professor X. They're very good at it by this point. It kind of makes me wonder how that all is going to fall into place going into Doomsday. Sadie Sink isn't going to be in Doomsday, but she's going to be in Secret Wars. I don't know what that means. So I think that the future of the X-Men right now is very much uncertain. I believe that the same director who is attached to Thunderbolts is doing X-Men, but I'm not entirely sure. I could be misremembering that. I thought that the sort of the contrast between Peter Parker and Spider-Man was brilliantly done. People always like to say, oh, Toby had the best Peter, Andrew had the best Spider-Man, but Tom didn't really have either of those things. And I still don't think that this is like the contender. Like, I'm not going to go say, oh, Tom is the best of both worlds, but I think that he's definitely moving in that direction. I'm very excited to see where he goes from here. Um, I'm just tired of Damage Control being the villains as well. I mean, they were the sort of inciting incident in Spider-Man Homecoming. They were the villains in Miss Marvel. They were the villains in what's that other one that I'm thinking of? Obviously, this movie and the fourth MCU project, which escapes my mind currently. But they just keep coming back, and every single time they're like, "Oh, we're damage control, and we're good guys now. You know, we promise swearsies, we're all good, we're all Kino, we're all cleared away." But then they end up being the bad guys, and it's like, okay, who's really surprised by this? It's disappointing, um, but not at all surprising. I think I think that this movie's going to go over very well. I think it's going to make a lot of money. Obviously, um, Tom Holland and Zendaya aren't hurting for cash right now, and I think that this will be like the good movie that goes into Doomsday. I think that Doomsday is just going to have too many problems. I'm still very scared about it, but I guess that there's only one way to really see. I want to say that this has put me back, like, oh, look at me, I'm back into the MCU, but I just can't really say that right now, I suppose. Um, but I am going to go into Doomsday with an open heart, an open mind, and if they can continue towards this direction, excuse me, if they can continue into this direction, obviously it's not a perfect movie. There were a lot of, it looked kind of flat except for times then they're like, oh my god, look how beautiful it is. It's a sunset, it's a sunrise. Oh my god, look at the color grading. Other than that, it was very simple of like color grading, of aesthetics. The only real interesting camera work came when there was like a big intense action scene. Even the web swinging sequences, they looked fine, but it was more in the choreography than the camera work. Um, I've obviously had mentioned my problems with damage control as villains again. Um, I just I have good hopes. No, I have hesitant hopes about the future of the MCU because it could be so good. I mean, come on, guys. Winter Soldier, Russo brothers, they did Winter Soldier, and it's like the best sort of superhero movie to come out of the MCU, arguably so. Especially when I sneeze here in a second. But they just, you know, I feel like they sort of lost a bit of their magic as well. Excuse me, by the way. You see them push out things like The Electric State, which were just god awful movies. Um, it makes you wonder if it's their talent as directors or their talents to lift from other source materials. Because obviously, watching back the director's commentary for something like um Winter Soldier, and you come to them talking about their inspirations, and Manchurian Candidate, uh, the other thing whose name I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but things like that. It's just you wonder, and especially going into Doomsday, with how rushed and jumbled everything is, if they really have the chops to pull it off. Obviously, I'm getting away from Spider-Man here, but I just really feel like there's not a lot to say about it. It's a fine movie. It's directed fine. Scorpion's barely in it. Tombstone's barely in it. The Boomerang antagonist is barely in it. And really, what were you expecting at this point, And I saw like the headlines being like, oh, it's gonna be an ensemble movie with a bunch of different villains all poking their heads in. And I knew it wasn't going to be, and it wasn't. I don't think it necessarily needed to be, and I think that it actually worked in its favor to sort of show the ho hum everyday life of Spider-Man. Um, I just hope that MCU movies can continue into this direction. Obviously, like EFAP Mahler, they're not going to like something like this at all, but I really just feel like it's less of their own personal taste and more of what would bring in the views, what would bring in the money. And so I want to see what the MC will do next, especially with this supposed incumbent reboot coming up. I don't know. But I definitely recommend Spider-Man Brand New Day. I think that you should go watch it. I think you should go enjoy it. And I guess we'll see what comes from it. So I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.